State Manager for the Ashtabula County Auditor's Office.
I'm Catherine Colgan, I'm the Assistant City Solicitor.
Jim Timonere, City Manager.
Jody Mills, Ward 4, City Council.
Jane DiGiacomo, Ward 5, City Council.
Ashley Bell, Clerk of Council.
Yeah, now we all know each other.
Oh yeah, this is better, I can see this better.
I was downloading the packet instead of the.
Oh.
Jane, you are. You're good.
Hello, everybody. This is the Community Development, Economic Development, Parks and Recs Committee meeting. And Ashley, will you call the roll?
Mrs. DiGiacomo,
Here.
Mrs. Mills,
Here.
Ms. Holman, Mr. Timonere,
Here.
Ms. Bell.
And I'd like to welcome it and acknowledge our visitors. Just so I don't mispronounce anyone's name, can our visitors say their names?
Scott Yamamoto, Ashtabula County Auditor's Office.
Catherine Colgan, Assistant City Solicitor.
Thank you. So we're going to start off with Scott, who's here from the Ashtabula County Auditor's Office.
Good evening. Thanks for having me today. I was asked to prepare a list of properties that are currently abated in the city of Ashtabula. So I've done that. I provided, and if anybody needs a paper copy, I have paper copies if anyone would like one. One-page sheet, and it basically summarizes all the current active property abatements. There are 9 commercials, and then the rest are residentials. Those are single-family homes that are abated. Most of them are on Bridge Street, the townhouses down there, and there's a few on Walnut, one on 16th, one on West Avenue. The commercial properties are just a variety of different remodeling. I believe properties, the Harvey Service Center, Castle Block properties, the big remodel over there, Burrito Local, the Health Plaza for Ashtabula County Regional Medical, Aqua Ohio, Lake City, Fire Chicken, which is currently occupied by Fire Chicken, and Fat Sally's. And these are partial abatements. The houses are pretty much 100% abated for the period of 7 years. On the sheet, I indicated what the abated value was, and then what the taxable value was, and then when the abatement expires. So in the column, there's a total foregone tax. That is for all entities that receive the tax revenue, not just the city of Ashtabula. And then the total tax for collection. So that's what's being collected now, and the total foregone tax. If the value were to stay the same, that's what would be gained at the time that the abatement expires. So currently the foregone taxes a total up to $117,373 roughly, and the total tax collected for those same properties that's not abated is $140,806 and some change. So, and then the abated value, if you're talking about the value itself, the abated is a little over 5.5 million, and the taxable value of those same properties, so again, part of it is abated, part of it is not, is a little over $5.6 million. If you flip the sheet over, David and I thought that this might be helpful for this discussion. Abatement breakdown. This is a loss of revenue by fund just for Ashtabula City. So on the other side, it was that was all funds, all entities that receive the tax money, whereas this side is just literally Ashtabula City. So we did, because there's 2 tax rates, there's 2 classifications of property. There's Class 1 and Class 2. Class 1 is residential agricultural. Class 2 is commercial industrial. So the rates are just slightly different between the 2. Residential, they enjoy a little bit lower rate, and some there are some rollbacks that are effective for residential properties that are not for commercial. So there's a little bit of difference between the 2 rates. But you can see, so what we did was we thought it would be easier if we said for every $100,000 in market value, what the loss would be. So in residential, $516.31 to the city for every $100,000 of value, and then on the commercial side, $593.89. And all of these numbers, everything that I'm showing you tonight on the back side, these are all from the reports that we have in the auditor's office. These are the tax rate sheets that we use to put on the tax bill to actually compute the taxes. So these are as accurate as they can be. I also summarized the increase in revenue from 2023 to, based on the difference in 2022. And this was due to the value changes that occurred in 2023. David and I thought that this would be helpful for you to know as well. There was about a 20% change in value from 22 to 23 due to that triennial update that was mandated by the State Department of Taxation. When you have a value increase like this, the inside millage will generate more taxes, whereas the outside millage, which I'll get to in a second, does not. Inside millage, you can think of it as a percent, a flat percent that is levied against the property value. So as values change, the amount of tax revenue that comes to the city and all the different entities, the county, and things like that, it does increase some. So you can see that there was a 20% change in revenue on that inside millage. So those are funds that are not voted on by the public. That's your fire fund, your police fund, pension, your general fund. So there was a total change of about 20%. It went from $621,819 to $743,659.92. Those numbers come from the Schedule B that is provided to the city from the county auditor's office when we do a tax collection. And I'll just bring up, on the bottom of the sheet, I decided to kind of give you a definition of what inside millage and outside millage is. So inside millage, in the words of the Ohio Constitution, is inside the purview of the Ohio Constitution. It's a static factor. It's like I said, it's just a flat number multiplied against the property values. So for example, the fire fund millage is 1.3 mils. That's $1.30 for every $1,000 of valuation. So the assessed values of the city are multiplied by a factor of 0.0013, and that factor stays the same no matter what the values do. And outside millage, just to summarize, that is voted millage. So when a levy goes on the books, the entity seeking the levy would say, we need $1 million or we need $100,000. The auditor's office certifies to the municipality that, okay, the value of the entity is this. We take the $100,000 divided by the value to get the tax rate needed to generate that income that is being asked of the voters. When the voters approve it, that levy amount stays the same. So if you want $100,000 in 1990 and that is a perpetual levy, you will still get $100,000 out of the levy in 2023. There is a little bit of a caveat to that, and that is as new construction is added, they will pick up a little bit more each year that we add new construction. So it does add a little bit, but for the most part, it's one of the reasons why we tell people that when your values go up, your taxes don't go up at the same rate that your values do, because the taxes, those levies can't generate more than what the voters approved originally. So hopefully that makes sense for everybody. And I did give a little bit of an example at the bottom. An example is the city needs $100,000 and the value of the city is $1 million. So $100,000 divided by $1 million is a factor of 0.1 or 10%. Value changes to 1.1 million. Now the rate is $100,000 divided by 1.1 million. So you need 0.09 or 9% instead of 10. That's kind of how the outside millage works, just to give a brief kind of general summary of how that gets calculated. So with that being said, if anybody has any questions about any of these, I'm glad to answer anything.
Does anyone have any questions?
We tried to make it pretty simple and straightforward.
No, you did a great job. It's very straightforward.
Hope that it's helpful. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. I have some business cards here. You feel free to email me at any time. I can answer any questions. If I don't have an answer, I'll get you one.
Thank you. Thank you for providing this information.
You're very welcome.
So you're welcome to stay for the whole meeting, and if you want to be freed, you are also, you can be free.
I can stay, there's no problem. Sometimes questions come up later and it's not a big deal. So I'm happy to stay, thank you.
All right.
Madam Chair, just if I could, make some comments on this, because obviously tax abatement becomes a hot topic when we do it. I would say we're probably one of the most aggressive political subdivisions in the county with incentives for both residential and commercial. Residential is not only new construction, but also any kind of remodeling, and it does require a significant amount of remodeling to change the value of a house in order for a tax abatement to be, worth it for a resident. But residents can get that for remodeling their homes or new construction. But as you can see, with all of these tax abatements that we're giving out, when it equates to the dollar amount, it's not really a huge dollar amount.
Right.
But at the same token, when you look at the values when these abatements expire, which a lot of these are coming up pretty soon, there's a lot of taxes going to be generated from that. So when people say you're giving away that money, I kind of look at it more as we're holding funds in abeyance. This is attractive, and you've heard from some of these owners that they would not have built here, or they would not have done different things here if it wasn't for the abatement, taking incentives elsewhere. So if we've had to wait for a couple years to get the total amount, but you also look at the column that says the taxes collected. So even though there's an abatement, there's still some monies coming in off those properties. So this report is very well done, and hopefully that provides a little bit more clarification. We, as I've always said, are mindful that our school district receives the bulk of the property tax. And on the commercial end of it, we have tried to stay around the 50% or lower than 75% unless we've needed it for being competitive in different areas. Tax abatement has changed now on the commercial end, where we used to have to get approval from the school districts for anything over 50%. It's now, I think, 75%. The language has changed to, and that just changed last year. So that would, anything that we do over 75% would require school board approval. However, with the agreement that was made back in the day when the city was not doing tax abatement correctly and was sued by the school district, and we had an agreement of how things were going to proceed to quash that lawsuit and everything that was done, the city at that time said they would not ask for anything more than 75% abatement. So already when we talk about economic development and advantages, we're at a 25% disadvantage from other areas on the commercial side of it, where they can offer up to 100%, we can only offer 75%. We have discussed internally going back to the school district and trying to modify that agreement. It just hasn't been an appropriate time to do that, and we feel that the abatements in the commercial realm right now are sufficient enough that we don't need that extra 25%. But there may come a day where, keep in mind, that 25% is hanging out there. We may have to, the city at some point might have to go back and try to modify that agreement. But all in all, I think it's a powerful tool, and I've always said until every other subdivision says they won't do tax abatement, I will always recommend tax abatement when it comes up.
I have a question. How do people find out about this thing if someone wants to renovate a building?
Just call in our office. Yeah, call our office. We can walk you through it. What we typically say is you need to really look at the value that the auditor's office has on the house now, and then when you do like a lot of internal remodeling, it may only increase your house value by $15,000, even though you're putting a $60,000 kitchen in or something like that. So the auditor's office determines the value. Yeah.
And just to add to Jim's comments, dollars in don't equal dollars out on a remodel job, or even sometimes construction. The cost of construction is more than, we might go out, as an appraiser myself, I go out in the field, you've remodeled your house, we look at it, we might change the condition from average to good, and it might bump your value by 10% or something like that, but you've spent much more than that in it. Our job is to be general and kind of broad. We're not looking for pinpoint accuracy. We don't do the kind of appraisals that a bank does. You know, we try to look at the neighborhood, and everything that we do is historical. Right now, we're valuing properties based on tables that were generated, in January 1st of 2023. And even those are a little bit behind. Those are just trended from 2020. So if anybody ever has any questions about remodeling or anything like that, feel free to reach out to our office. We're very reachable. We'll talk with you. We'll talk about things, and you can ask all the questions that you want, and we'll give you a straight answer.
We had a situation in the commercial world where we were discussing tax abatement with a company that wanted to come in. We went out to the auditor's office to have this discussion because it is when built, it's really a one-use facility. So even though they were proposing $500 million in the construction, the value of it might only be $20 million by the auditor's office because it can only be this certain structure. It's not, the construction cost is nowhere near what the value is going to be at the end. So those are the types of things when we work on economic development projects and tax abatement. As Scott said, it's not always dollars in, dollars out.
Yeah, I was thinking more of people, like, people that have property on Bridge Street, I was saying, where can we get,
Mhm.
some kind of help?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I-
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have it, posted on our website for and all the forms there. On the commercial side, you are not allowed to put a hammer against a wall until council has approved a tax abatement. Once you start a project, we can't go back. So we always tell people, if you're interested, you got to contact us early before any demo's done, before any kind of remediation, anything, so that we can have everything outlined, the agreement signed, and then you can go. Residential is a little bit different. Residential is done after the fact. So after the house is complete, they give us the certificate of occupancy, they turn in all their bills, and then we forward to the auditor's office that the job is complete, and once they put a value on it, then it's done. People ask a lot of times too, how do we not know how much we're abating and all this stuff before we issue the abatements? Well, number one, on the residential side, they typically don't come to us until afterwards. And again, it's not until the auditor's office puts a value on it that we would know those numbers. We can guesstimate, based, on Bridge Street, we know historically, here's what the abatement has been and here's what the value has been. So we could kind of forecast what those other condos were gonna be. But it's hard to say somebody that's gonna build on, we have a couple houses that are being proposed to build on Scott Avenue right now. Don't know what those values are gonna be at the end, so it's hard to say this is how much that abatement's gonna cost. Once the values are done, obviously that's a lot easier, but we can also then say, when the abatement runs out, here's how much money's coming in. On vacant property that we're collecting nothing for. It's just postponing that for a little while until, and the other benefit to us when I look at the residential side is now we're also generating income tax, we're generating license fees and everything when they go to the BMV, getting their plates, the sewer use fees, all that stuff is being generated, and people hopefully are shopping locally as well when they purchase homes. So there's an offset to us, but again, we're mindful what it does to the school districts because they are the largest collector of that income tax, of the property tax.
Does anybody else have any questions?
If somebody's doing a residential, if they're doing a remodel, so Scott, do they need to come before they start, or?
No, on the and nothing goes to the auditor's office. We are the conduit between that. They would come to planning and community development and talk to us about that. But there's, again, we would encourage them in a lot of the same discussion. You might be doing a $60,000 remodel, but it's only gonna bump your house up 10 grand.
So might they, the only reason or way you might be involved if there's a question of the value at the start or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then once the project is done and the paperwork is complete on the city's end, the city sends it to us, and then we will enact whatever the order says on the abatement.
Okay.
And then remember too, when we talk about abatements, so say you're remodeling your house, and right now the auditor's office has your house at $150,000. So that number is locked in, you're paying that tax. If the auditor's office increases your value to $200,000, that $50,000 of new value is what is abated. This is the percentage that's abated. It's not on the whole.
Correct.
value of the house. It's only on the improvement. So the taxes that are being paid now on any property or any structure will remain the same. It'll be what the new value is and the difference between the two that's abated.
And land is always taxable, so you're always getting money on, you're always getting revenue from the land value, and then on a partial abatement, you have the rest of what's taxable that's coming in, you're only abating the new portion.
So I wanted to, so on these, foregone tax and the tax collected, so is it, safe to say, like, somebody would have been, this is a residential, 650449, now they're paying that, so kind of a combination, so when that rolls off in 27, there's like go up by then too, another, yeah,
There's a reappraisal.
7,000 a year or whatever.
Yeah, there's a reappraisal for 2026,
Sure.
so anything that expires after January 1st of 2026 is gonna have a different number than what we're showing here. And then there's always things that can happen, especially with new construction, people build a deck, the deck isn't, maybe not be abated. They put it on a porch, they do this, they do that, and the property might sell, and then the abatement follows the property. So
Okay.
there's a myriad of different situations that can occur with these things.
So it's like in that 7 years and you've had it 5 years, you sell it, they get that for 2 years.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be a nice selling feature as well.
Oh, sure, exactly. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay, Catherine, you're up.
I'm up. Well, I don't have a fancy presentation. Instead, I'm coming to the committee with a list of requests that have sort of developed over. I started at the solicitor's office in October of '22, and particularly working with the compliance officers in the city. And with Mary Church at Community Development Planning, we've discovered some sections of our codified ordinance that need some work. And I can propose things, but I'm not a legislator. And so I thought the best way to approach it would be to bring the particular topics to the committee. And then the committee can maybe do some research and weigh in and let me know which direction they think we should head before we make proposals to council. I sent a preliminary list, so those things are prohibiting storage containers as accessory structures. Apparently this has become an issue throughout the city. Regulating temporary carports. This is a newer issue. People are erecting roofs over vehicles and then enclosing them and using them as structures. Allowing aluminum roofs without a variance each time. Our codifieds currently require a variance every time somebody wants to use a metal roof. Not sure why, not sure what the reasoning was behind that, but Mary Church has requested that we do away with that procedural requirement at the least. There's been a lot of discussion about imposing a moratorium on small box retail stores. We want to do some kind of study in the city to determine their effects on things like access to food, public health, all those good public interest things. We've discovered that we have no regulation of food trucks within Ashtabula City at all. This has led to food trucks being parked in some unusual locations and maybe setting up semi-permanent camp that has neighbors complaining, not happy. We also need to take a look at our regulation of boarding houses. Right now, boarding houses, rooming houses, halfway houses, it's all kind of conflated together in the codified ordinances. It seems like maybe they grew at different times and were addressed at different times, and nobody's kind of taken an overarching look at how those regulations should apply. Some simple things. we'd like to update our vacant building registration requirements. Right now, the fees and the penalties for failing to register a vacant building kind of don't motivate people to comply. So we're chasing a lot of folks for not registering their vacant buildings. And then the last one is a simple one. I'd like to harmonize the notification requirements across building, zoning, and housing. The 3 different sections of the codified ordinance have different requirements for notifying property owners. Some are certified mail, some are regular mail. I'd like them all to be the same because our compliance officers are having a hard time remembering what they have to do for what type of citation. That's my laundry list.
That's a good list. So you said one thing that I have a question about, and this might be to the greater laws of the land than Ashtabula. So with halfway houses or sober living, whatever that is. So say I have a stroke and I go to the hospital. They're not just going to release me without a plan that I am going to be in a safe environment or have continued care or whatever. And it seems to me, and I don't know that we can do something at a city level, but something needs to happen that we need to be more responsible with continued care of people, because it seems to me the appearance is that we're able to collect money and then see ya.
So the one interesting thing on that front is that halfway houses, sober living houses, whatever you want to term them, there's been recent legislation. It went into effect at the beginning of this year, and it's tasked the Department of Mental Health, I believe, with coming up with rules to certify those types of facilities. So we have a lot of, before certification was a voluntary process. In Ashtabula City, we have a lot of these types of sober living facilities that aren't certified, and they aren't manned or operated by anyone with any kind of medical knowledge or mental health knowledge, or so the new legislation is requiring the Department of Mental Health, the State Department of Mental Health, to come up with rules and regulations for the operation of these facilities. That's supposed to happen sometime this year. I've got my fingers crossed that we'll see.
And that's at the state of Ohio level?
Mhm.
That's correct.
And that's where the change has to happen, is it? It's not a city thing, it's a,
Yeah.
But remember, those changes are for the facilities that call themselves sober living or some type of medical aspect to it. A boarding house would not fall under those terms.
Right.
So 2 separate issues.
One is more like a
One is,
rental,
I'm renting out a room.
home or
Yep. I'm renting out a room. The other one is I'm renting a place to get you back on your feet, and I'm also providing services to get you there.
Oh, and when you just said that, you reminded me, one more thing to add to the laundry list is short-term rentals. Airbnb and those kinds of things.
so you want us as a committee to discuss this and then go to council, or just bring your list to council? Because it seems to me, to be honest, that you've put a lot of thought and work into this, and I,
These are issues that we run into daily, and in the midst of running around trying to do what we're doing to get things done, we're also communicating back to the solicitor's office saying, here are the changes we think we need. What within the law are we able to do, and how do we need to change our ordinances to make it easier for us to do these different things that we need to do. In addition, Catherine has taken a look at our ordinances and said, as like we mentioned, this department requires this notification, this department requires that notification, let's streamline this. There are things that are talked about in our codifieds that aren't in there, you know, we might refer to a section G and there is no section G. So, and that's just the thing, you know, over the years, things have been added, taken away, deleted, and 20 chapters back referred to that and we didn't realize
Right.
it. So,
Right.
there's been a lot of cleanup that needs to happen as well. You know, again, these are, I kind of say they're good issues to have because a lot of the things that we're proposing are really growing pains. I mean, we've had so much development lately that we've taken a look at, as you guys have heard me preach, and we're working on that bid right now for the completely redoing our zoning, because our zoning is terrible. But a lot of this goes along with that. One of the reasons that years ago when I asked for a moratorium on small box retail, that we couldn't impose it is because there has to be a reason you're imposing it. And the reason is we're going to do a study to tell us maybe where they should be located, how many we should have, what that affects on other retail, and looking at it as a whole. But you can't just say, we're gonna stop this without having a plan of how it might be introduced back, or here's how it's gonna be regulated in the future. So, all of this stuff is kind of going hand in hand. There are some of these things that we can't wait for the zoning study to be done to impose now. People are calling us about shipping containers constantly, and that's the last thing I think we need in the backyards of homes is shipping containers acting as sheds, which are then becoming rooms, which are then becoming mother-in-law streets, which are, you know, there are cool ways to do some of this stuff,
Right.
but we need to have some regulation on it. The metal roof, no idea why in the past that was done. I mean, that could have been from the 60s when metal roofs were first coming out and they weren't what they are today. So the city decided, hey, we're just not gonna have metal roofs. But obviously it's a great product. They've come a long way. So we need to look at that too. And you know, on the carport thing, you can buy a carport on Amazon. It doesn't mean it's structurally sound. It's you know, held down by some sandbags. There's gotta be some regulation on that. So those are different things we're finding that, you know, they're popping up in neighborhoods, people are complaining. There's really nothing in our code that says you can't have them, so we need to put something in there to at least regulate them.
So would a motion giving you permission to move forward, that's what you need from here?
Well, the problem that I have, some of these are really simple. Prohibiting storage containers, I can draft that in 5 minutes. That's not a hard thing. The moratorium on small box retail, I've drafted some language. We've been kicking it around a little bit. I'd like somebody to look at it and see if that's where the city really wants to go. I'm not a legislator, I'm a lawyer. Regulation of food trucks. I have no idea even where to begin. So I need more of that sort of community input. How
So
you would see it affecting.
beyond council, you would like something with the community on that?
Possibly, but I definitely like your input as the council people from your individual wards, because I know, all of the wards have different interests and sort of different ideas about what works. So some of them, like I said, are easy, some of them need a little input.
So a good example, on the food truck thing, obviously food trucks are different than what they used to be. In the past, it was, you're taking away from brick and mortar, you're taking away from this. Now, food trucks have been a draw for different areas, and they bring them in all the time. Cloven Hoof down in the harbor does an excellent job keeping a fresh rotation down there. It doesn't impede, it actually brings people to the district. But that is a commercial establishment inviting somebody else on their property. We feel that in a situation like that, if somebody's gonna be invited onto a property, that's fine, there shouldn't be any issues. However, there are discussions of, and actually happening, where somebody might own a vacant parcel next to their house, and they've just popped the food truck on it and opened up and threw some gravel down and made a drive-through. Do we really want that in a neighborhood?
Yeah, I've had complaints
So
about
those are,
that.
yeah, so those are the things that we really have to take a look at. In my opinion, and then you have in different areas, Willoughby is a great example of it, and I can't remember the name of it. But they have like a food truck park.
Yard.
The Yard, yes. those are popping up everywhere. And actually, one is proposed right now for Main Avenue, where you would just have a property that has some infrastructure on it where food trucks can show up so many days a week or whatever and set up and do their thing. There's one being proposed down in the harbor. There's one being proposed up here on Main Avenue. Should that go through the Planning Commission for approval on something like that? Should there be, you need to have running water, you need to have a restroom facility, you need to have X, Y, Z to have something like that. So there are things, rather than just showing up on a vacant piece of property and calling it food truck day. So there are some, I don't want to, because it is a good trend, I believe, and it actually draws people, I don't want to put too much regulation on it, but we also don't want these things just parking on a side street on a Tuesday and saying, I'm gonna be on East 42nd Street tomorrow from 8 to 2 and just show up. I mean, there's gotta be some type of regulation
So
to it.
I assume you've looked at other cities that have had success managing this?
I wouldn't say success because I think, a lot of the language we've looked at has been existing before food truck became popular. So a lot of the municipalities are looking at their ordinances and changing them around a little bit to be more food truck friendly.
Can I ask, so if I'm going to somewhere, say it was in somebody's neighborhood, is there something that they're posting? So do I know that, like, health department has inspected, or is there criteria like that I know that
Well,
what
typically all food trucks should be regulated by a health department. And I think they get a license from the state as well,
So there's
if they're doing it properly.
So there
But
would
that
be a
just goes to
process.
food.
Yeah, that just goes to the food. That doesn't do with, I just showed up in this area to set up.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things that we feel if you're having a birthday party and you want a food truck at your house, fine, that's great, you're having it for that purpose. If it's invited to like a cloven hoof, that's great if you're having that for that purpose. If it's just somebody, hey, I saw this vacant piece of property over here and I'm gonna set up today, those are things we have to start taking a look at.
Well, that would interfere with maybe parking in the neighborhood and.
It's traffic that usually neighborhoods don't want.
Right.
Now, you've answered my question about being on a, not commercial, but like a private, commercial property versus residential.
And those are things, are we gonna should we just allow food trucks to be on commercial corridors and not in neighborhoods unless they're like at a private event? Those are all things to,
So the food
Consider.
truck conundrum, because I hear both sides, some people feel strongly, we need something like the yard, because that would be a huge draw. And at the same time, you have your brick and mortar saying unfair, unfair, unfair. They're getting business and they're not having this, this, and this, and this expense. So I don't know how you make you're gonna make
no,
people
that's
mad.
that's where you as legislators just need to make a decision,
And that's
whether
why I
you
brought
want
a-
it or not.
Yeah, that's why I brought a laundry list,
Yeah.
so that you can kind of just mull it over. If you wanna, have Google and do research and see what's happening other places, and if you wanna talk to people in your neighborhoods, or however you wanna handle it. But I need some direction if I'm gonna draft something.
And so the good news in all of this is you have the Ashtabula Food Truck Network. So there are people there's an organization that is not only helping people get started in the food truck industry, but it's a collection of people. So they would be wonderful to reach out to say, what have you seen in other areas? What do you think we should impose here? I think we drafted, and this goes a couple years, I wanna say 2 or 3 years back, right around the COVID time, or during COVID, we had kicked a sample over to them of some legislation that we were looking at, just for some input and feedback back and forth. So, there's resources out there.
So to me, it boils down to the food trucks versus the restaurants. I would think
Well, I guess I don't see that anymore because they're two different clientele, number one.
Yeah,
And it has become a draw. So even though there were food trucks down at Beach Class, the restaurants were
Right.
busy.
right.
You know, we have the fish at Wine and Walleye, but the restaurants are busy. So it,
Do you wanna stand and eat, or do you wanna sit
exactly, I mean,
inside
it's a
there?
totally
Do you
different,
wanna-
you know,
yeah.
it's a totally different experience. And quite frankly, the price you pay for the food trucks is really not that different than you pay indoors anymore. You know, it used to be, yeah, I can go get $1 hot dog. That's not really the case anymore. The food trucks are a lot more elaborate than what they used to be, than Mead's popcorn stand that used to be down here. But you're also looking at an area on, let's say, Main Avenue. You've got 1.5 eating options right now, you know, as far as times being open. Yes, Cascabelli, the old Cascabelli will be redone and be a restaurant soon. Hopefully that'll be opening up, but there's not much to draw people down here when it comes to food.
No,
so-
I think it would be a huge draw, and I think it would be a huge part of development, quite honestly.
Well, and that's why we need to do it right. Right now, it's kind of looking the other way, because there isn't really anything on the books to enforce.
I don't know if I should talk about this right now, but it's gonna come to you guys anyway. Okay, so James Mayer bought a lot, has two lots on Bridge Street, right next to Harvard Hilton, across from the Iroquois. He wants to put a cement pad there and allow food trucks to park there. Our board has a problem with that, partly because it is in the National Registry area where, a historic building was torn down, and it's a hole in what is a group of buildings. Also, speaking of the yard, the area that he has to work with there, he doesn't have room to do anything but park a food truck there. There's no room for any other infrastructure. Like, I looked at the yard. One thing about it, it's not in historic Willoughby Street. It's 2 blocks down and around the corner. It's already attached to another business, a brick and mortar. It's this permanent structure set up with like outdoor patio. It has an outdoor bar, serve liquor. It's kind of more like what breweries do, really. They have outside TVs, and it looks like a place where people, a nice night could go be outside. And food trucks have a spot where they can pull up. They probably could fit a couple. They also have off-street parking available there. The spot that we're looking at on Bridge Street is the narrowest part where people are parked on both sides. It's a real squeeze to get through anyway. And so we're not like real happy about this idea.
Well, the only thing I would caution the board would be, it's not your job to regulate the type of business that goes on a property.
But it is
It's
our
your-
job to regulate what it looks like and,
Correct.
whether it fits in with the harbor, with the historic district or not. And, I mean, actually, if he was talking about the space further up the street that Todd Canner owns and there's all that room, that would be like a whole different thing. I just think that parking a single food truck in that space is, it's right next to Halcyon and right across from pizza at the Iroquois. I'm not sure, that it's a good idea.
Again, I would say the type of business that's going on there is not what you're going to regulate. That would be my 2 cents.
Okay, well,
So, I agree with you on the look. I do not agree with you on the purpose of the property. That I think is way outside the scope
how
of,
can you make a food truck look like the ones in the
well,
National
it's portable, and they're doing it now. Correct?
Registry?
They're doing it now at Clovenhoof.
Right, but it's, again, like you said, it's attached to infrastructure. Invited on.
This would be invited on somebody's commercial property.
Invited on.
We're not gonna agree on this one. I'll just let you know that.
All right, so getting back to Catherine,
So
Wait.
my guess is you guys want to see legislation. You are in somewhat agreement we should have regulations on everything that was mentioned?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I would say we would like some council input, just via email or just communicating to me or the planning the community development department of here's some things we're thinking of, or how can we incorporate this into there? We'll try to meld that all into what the ordinance would look like.
The boss lady wants to say something.
Yes, please say something.
Introduce me, how to process all this. I guess my suggestion would be a little different in that some of it seems, oh, you can hear me.
No, I gotta pick you up on the.
Oh. So some of it would be, I would think, fairly straightforward. The metal roofs, if you want to remove the requirement that you need a variance for a metal roof, vote on it, tell Catherine, she'll draft the legislation. That's the easy stuff. The notice requirements for each. If you think it should just be regular mail, or if you think it should all be certified mail, or if you think it should all be in person, just pick whichever one, tell us that's what you want, she'll draft it and you take it back to council. So I would suggest you go down the list of her topics, the ones that obviously you want to deal with, vote on them, and give Catherine direction. This is what we want. We want this stopped, we want this started, and she can go ahead and start drafting that legislation while you take input and research and talk about the ones that are harder, need more thought and consideration and input from other partners. That's my suggestion.
So can we do that with the easy ones in this meeting, make a motion?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the list.
Can I ask you one question? And this is just, I'm gonna just throw this out. Is council allowed, for example, for a boarding house, is council allowed to just say, no more boarding houses?
No.
Okay, so that being said, how could we change anything in regards,
You would have to change, and Catherine, correct if I'm wrong, you'd have to change the housing code in order to make certain requirements. So many square footage per person, so many bathrooms per person, inspections and such.
and if they're boarding, for example, is there any, like right now, I don't know if there's tracking, if they're staying under 30 days, are like whoever is, you know, are they doing the bed tax to the now Jefferson, you know, the beginning of every month, because it's like an Airbnb, they should be reporting anybody.
So the folks at the county have stepped up the game as far as bed tax goes, and they have a software program that kind of scours the internet for these listings, and when they find them, they go after them.
Okay.
So I don't think too many people are skirting out of paying the boarding tax. The boarding house, halfway house, rooming house issue is, to me, words on a page. It's definitional. We have and a lot of the problems that we have enforcing these do stem from these 110501 definitions. So we have a definition of a boarding house and then no subsequent regulation of a boarding house, but we have a whole chapter on rooming houses. And we're not real clear on what the difference is supposed to be. So I just need to know, I mean, from the people who are elected to represent what works in your neighborhoods. And then I can work with the words on the page to affect that outcome. But the boarding house, rooming house one, I wouldn't even try to do one easy piece of legislation because it's complicated.
Right, I think that we would agree that the food trucks, the boarding house, those are gonna require some research and some conversations with council and other community individuals before you make a final decision about it.
Just
The
for-
other ones are a little,
Yeah, Just for a little bit more on the boarding house thing, so not only is it could it be a zoning / codified ordinance thing for us, there are also some state and local building code requirements for boarding houses. So we have also had a meeting with the building department in Jefferson to express our concerns there and to ask them to start enforcing some of those building codes / fire codes / state codes to limit the amount of people that can be in per square foot and some of those regulations that we don't feel are being enforced right now.
And we're happy to enforce those. If they do the inspection, we'll file the petition, we'll file the complaint, we'll enforce it, but we need the inspection by a certified individual.
So I want to make a motion for the storage containers, temporary carports, aluminum roofs. My preference for mail would be certified. That you have my permission, our permission and blessing to take care of those.
There was something on.
See, I didn't wear my glasses, Jim. Notifications for vacant building. Vacant building, yes, in the vacant building.
So the vacant building registration is gonna be, from our enforcement perspective, we would like to beef up some of the penalties. And I don't know how much to beef them up before people would object. So if you wanna give me some idea, I think.
Well, what is it at now?
I think, well, yeah, the permit is, $200? I don't even think it's that much. I can find that information for you and send it to you, but it's not enough that it's motivating people to comply.
So what's the max allowed by law?
I don't think there is a maximum. It's city home rule, so you get to decide.
So can I ask you, so if somebody has this vacant building and they make a plan, so to speak, that I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z in that, is that like a stall tactic a little bit? But I mean, if then is there checking back, like, okay, so you're not working on the roof or the.
So in the current legislation, there are ways to be exempt from it, some of which you've said. There is a plan for the building that's been agreed upon, timeframes agreed upon. The building is for sale. The building isn't a nuisance to the area, so it doesn't have like code violations on it, even though it's vacant. There are different ways that an owner can ask for to not have to pay the vacant property registration, but the building pretty much has to look like it's occupied and not be a nuisance in order for that to happen. Or there's a plan for the building, either to get it rehabbed or sell it or move it on to its next life.
So are we talking commercial and residential?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question. So could this be an advancing thing? Like, so this year, we'll say it's 2,000, and then next year, can we charge you 4,000? And then the year after,
That's
maybe
actually
6,000?
That's actually the way it is now. I think it doubles every year.
Oh, it does double.
Yeah.
So what number is in your head that would motivate people?
I don't have a number. So fees are here, fees are
Do
structured.
they start with 5,000?
That would motivate me.
Annually increased fee amounts are intended to absorb the cost for demolition. Annual fee of $200 for the first year of the building remains vacant. That's residential. For each consecutive year that the building remains vacant, the annual fee will be assessed at double the previous year's fee. For a maximum equaling 5-year fee of $3,200 to be used for the fifth and for all consecutive subsequent years of vacancy.
So,
So there's two
Just so-
fees you're talking
so,
about.
correct, so residential starts at 200 and with a maximum of 300, or 3,200 yearly. And then commercial starts off at 400 and maxes out at 6,400.
It starts at 400? So I'm not trying to ask anyone to lead me here, but is 1,000, is that what you're thinking should start out?
I would say 1,000 with a maximum 10,000 after 5 years.
Okay.
Oh, so that's 5 years from there to there.
Well, in my opinion, it has been the vacant property owners which have prevented development downtown for decades. So to put something in with a little bit of bite, I'm in favor of. I'm in favor of
What
it.
happens after the 5 years?
They just
You
continue.
continue to pay that maximum amount.
Continue, okay.
So if they have, one of your vacant buildings on Main Avenue, and they're paying $6,400 a year, that's just the cost of holding the property.
Now, keep in mind too, if there's code violations on there that they're not fixing, that doesn't mean that, enforcement on the property just stops because you're paying a vacant property registration. So, if broken windows or things like that and you don't comply, those can all be cited to court on top of paying that fee.
So,
However, if I could jump in, one of the
Yes.
problems that I face in enforcing that, particularly in the commercial arena, is that these buildings are held by corporations, and you can't put a corporation in jail, and the fines aren't enough that they're gonna motivate a corporation to comply. So they just ignore the summons to court, there's a warrant put out, but it's for a corporation, nothing ever happens.
is that also true with an LLC? Mhm. So we're just hitting people in the pocket.
Trying
It's-
to.
Trying to.
Yeah.
So you're saying, what I hear you saying is 1,000, doubling that, starting out at, we said 1,000?
On the commercial side, I think it should be 1,000 with a maximum after 5 years of 10,000. Residential, what did we say it was, 200?
It's 200. And residential is, typically when you're dealing with a vacant residential structure, you're dealing with people who don't have resources anyway, so.
Yeah, residential is where I pause, because you also have people in nursing homes or, what happens in that scenario? Where they can't sell their house or do anything with it.
We run into the probate issue a lot.
I feel like commercial is where I would want to tackle first, and then see where we're at.
We could always leave the fees the same on the residential. Right now, it's 200 start with a maximum of 3,200.
Yeah, I'm
5
fine
years.
with that. Okay, so now I have to reword this motion, right?
No,
No?
we would still bring back to you those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so, do I get a second on my motion?
If I need to ask a question, can I second it and then ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, I'll second.
All in favor?
No, now you have discussion.
Okay, now discussion.
Okay, my one question is, you wanted to notify by certified letter?
Yes.
What's your thoughts on when they have to go out there and do that? Is that, because it was in person, of course, I don't like the mail, I like certified.
So typically, it's a multi-step process. Certified mail, it gets refused or goes unclaimed, it comes back, and then we have to attempt some other means. So there's always some follow-up. We usually do in person, so we attempt to get some, I'm sorry,
Back in the door.
tap it to the door, take a picture, something that shows that we provided the property owner with reasonable notice. To your probate point, sometimes we know the owner is in a nursing home, so the guys will take the notice of violation to the person at the nursing home. That's a courtesy. but procedurally, we need to know that the process has been accomplished each time before we can file.
If I'm not mistaken, for a land bank demo, we actually drove to the Mansfield prison to get somebody to sign off on it. So we'll go to pretty much any length to get rid of a house.
So is your recommendation first a letter, then in person, or, but, I mean,
Well,
what do you think would be successful?
typically, we always try to send the letter first and try to get a response, but we need something official, again, throughout, before we can actually cite and file charges. So we would probably still try to notify people either regular mail or in person. If we get no response from that, that's when we usually go to the certified area. What we're saying here is, we want this to be we want to be able to say, yes, we did the certified in this section, and this section, and so we've covered our bases as far as our codified ordinances go. We certainly can make other attempts, but
Okay.
in order for us to say we've satisfied what we have in the codifieds, we just want that to be the same throughout the whole
You
thing. And
want
I think
your notification
Right.
to say the same,
correct.
okay.
And certified is probably the best way, even though we get a lot of those back, because we can say, we tried, here's what we got back, so we went to the house and we pinned it on the door, and here's the picture of it,
Okay,
and now we're covered.
okay. That was all I was wondering.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great,
Thank you.
thank you for coming.
So Catherine, so,
I'll be back.
Yeah,
so can I recap then? What we left was the discussion about small box retail, the food trucks, and the boarding houses. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. 3 big ones.
Join me in the fun.
So would a suggestion be to send that out to council as for feedback, or what's?
you could report on it Monday and see if anybody has, just save for them to contact our offices with any kind of ideas they have.
Okay.
Sounds good. I don't think we got a Parks and Rec Committee report. City manager report?
Not too much to report. Obviously, there's still a lot of, as you drive around town, a lot of construction going on, so we're trying to work our way through all of that. The hospital, as you know, has started moving patients into the new tower, really going well from what I understand. I did have a tour of the hotel last week. The stuff that you see posted online from inside does it no justice from actually being there and seeing it. So we're really excited for that to get opened up. We all took the tour of the bus garage the other day on Station Avenue. Really came out nice. They've done a fabulous job over there cleaning that entire corner up. And then it looks like our paving project is going to begin somewhere around July 15th. That week of July 15th, they'll be coming through and doing the milling. I think we have an end date of that contract around August 30th. So several, it's over $1 million worth of streets that we'll be doing there as well. So the current one that's going on for State Route 84 and for 531, I believe, is a $2.25 million project. And then ours will add another $1 million to this, a little over $1 million. So quite a bit of paving going on this year.
Can I ask about Ferry Drive?
So, yes, you can. We have submitted everything. It is now, so we had a 25 or 20-day posting period for comment, which we got no comment back, obviously. Everything was submitted yesterday. So now HUD has 15 days to respond to all of our stuff that was published. And then at that point, we should have the release of funds. In the meantime, we have been working to make sure that we'll be ready to go for bidding or anything else that has to go. As I've expressed, my biggest concern is this is based on a 2020 engineer's estimate, which was $460,000. I don't know what that means for today, so we've asked our engineers to re-estimate this job. And then if there's any kind of things we need to change around to make it work within that budget, we're gonna have to do that. So hopefully, I mean, our goal is still to spend that money by the end of the year within this construction season, but it doesn't look like we'll have for another 15 days or so the final verdict back from HUD.
Okay, so I know I asked you about this daily, so I'm just going to ask you here, because we know that everybody is watching us on Facebook. The Appalachian Grant.
There's one, actually, there's nobody watching right now, but that's okay. Actually, this morning I got an email back from Kathy, which basically says, Kathy Zook from Eastgate, which is where this is rolling from. Keep hanging on, we should have information soon.
Oh.
In a nutshell.
Okay.
We're concerned about that. What's happening right now is Eastgate is finalizing their agreements with the Appalachian Regional Commission. So the funds are going from the commission to Eastgate, and then Eastgate will sign agreements with all of our political subdivisions that were awarded funds to start administering those funds. So once those agreements are signed, then we can start rolling. It's
nail biting.
It's nail biting. And at this point, like I've said, we don't even know what portions, you know, we threw $9 million at the project just in the city of Ashtabula. We were awarded 1.6. We're not sure which portions of what we threw at them they've accepted. We believe it's facade improvement. We believe it's sidewalks. We believe it's for the food truck park, but we're not certain on that.
Gotcha.
So those are the things that we're still waiting for, and everyone is very, very concerned about the time frame, because Southern Ohio, it's a little bit easier. Northern Ohio, we have a very limited construction window, although we've been lucky these last couple of years to be doing construction in December and January. We can't always count on that. You know,
Right.
It could be the end of October. And one of the things that did I mention sidewalks?
Yes.
Okay, streetscape and sidewalks is one of the things that we hope is in that grant. When this is published, you know, all of our downtowns are gonna be doing the same types of things. So is the contractor gonna be available? What's that mean then for the cost of material? You're gonna have all of these regions. You have all of the, I think they do that on purpose sometimes. You have all of these regions at once, gonna try to get all this construction done by the end of the year. What's that look like? You know, we're gonna be awful busy trying to manage this, so. And I'm supposed to be speaking in July, beginning of July, with the downtown merchants to kind of update them. Unfortunately, that's the update I have at this point. Hopefully in the next week or two, we'll have a little bit more.
Yes, that would be great. All right, does anybody in the audience want to add anything to this meeting? Seeing no one, we will adjourn. Our next meeting is July 23rd, and it will be here.